We're going to have a couple of folks here talk about partnering to deliver cloud services to California. And for that, we have Shelton Wagner and Don Welch. Shelton is a Senior Vice President of Internet2, responsible for .NET Plus portfolio of services. He also provides leadership for Internet2 in Common Federation and middleware programs. And also joining his presentation is Don Welch, who is the President and CEO of Merit Networks, a nonprofit corporation governed by Michigan's public universities. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Shell, and let me hook you up, Shell, while you're this here. Great. If Shell needs anything, Sherilyn will be here to support too. Sorry. Shell.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, great. You want to take it? Okay. You can do the presentation for us. We've been working on this for so long. Good morning, everyone. I'm Shel Wagner. I've been part of the CENIC community for the last decade, having been at Berkeley for quite a few of those years. We began working together some time ago on cloud services, recognizing that cloud services were very different than traditional procurement, at least if we wanted them to be. The vendors may not so much want them to be. As you know, they liked selling perpetual licenses and things. But we really didn't want to see a repeat of the ERP era or even the way some of the research software is sold to us, because it really just was keeping an awful lot of resources out of the classrooms and the labs. So we started working on this a number of years ago. There were 13 campuses in Internet2 that sponsored the project, and in 2012 we released, or 2011, 2012 we released the first services. And at that time began working with the regionals to say, okay, once we get a catalog of services going, yeah, they'll offer savings to the community. We want them to be easily accessible. We want, you know, the student, faculty, or staff member to just be able to use them at a click. How do we cascade those as broadly as we can, knowing that the universities work together? You know, the idea of borders between any campus is pretty limited today. Those borders are quickly falling away. So CENIC, in its role with as many members as it has, Merit Networks, who you hear from Don shortly, and 7 other regional networks got together and started working with us to say, all right, so how do we engage any school across the country that wants to participate in this? Be it a K through 12, a community college, a local school, not just the large research universities. So we developed a portfolio process. You just heard about project management and program management. What we did was work together to say, okay, it's not about buying it. Unlike in the past where you would buy something and then pay support on it, basically it was an event. And if you ever had a sales rep who was really your buddy until you paid for it and then never showed up again, it was really an event for those commissioned salespeople. In the cloud, it's very much an ongoing relationship. For those of you that have a failure of a cloud service, you know that it's a very different experience than it used to be. So you have to have an ongoing process of engagement. So what we developed here, and what you see here, is basically a multi-step process to have an inquiry through an evaluation. Then we validate the service and we go into early adopter. Once it's released to general availability, any campus in the country could potentially benefit from it. And since we're all doing this anyway, right, every time a service comes up, somebody's, you know, I'm going to evaluate Microsoft Azure, I'm going to evaluate 365, I'm going to evaluate, we're all doing that work anyway. So how do we collaborate across that effort, given that you're going to be using exactly the same service in exactly the same version, as opposed to the way we used to do it? So the meat of that is really the service validation process. We bring together across 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 schools. Usually we will cap it at 10, simply because we want large and small, public and private, in that evaluation process. But there's a law of diminishing returns. Getting 25 schools to do an evaluation we're not finding much uniqueness there. We're just finding a coordination cost. So by doing it this way, we then go through the functional assessment of the product. We go through a technical integration. How's it going to work interoperating or integrating with other services? The security and compliance piece. We help build the Cloud Security Alliance's 3.0 risk matrix that includes all the dimensions that the higher education community in particular, but also the K through 12 community should consider when using a service. And then importantly, we build a business model with the providers that allows it to really work in education. So often we are so far downstream from the way a provider considers doing business with us that by the time it gets to the education market, it's a price that's slapped on as a discount off of some commercial price. But very often the way it's consumed in the commercial side has no relevance to how we would use it. How do you classify a student? Oh, we'll do fractional FTE. Well, what about a visiting lecturer? Are they a faculty member? And what about alumni? And what about, you know, all of these uniqueness that is higher education and education in general? So rather than trying to figure out how to fit that into whatever box they've created, we actually work with them to develop a model that works better for education. That's really important as we think about how do we just easily consume these things and not have to rethink their approach. And then when we go into deployment, one thing we do extremely well in education is share. So we've created repositories for the deployment information, you know, things as simple as marketing. How do you share this information with your campuses? What about support documentation, et cetera? So all of these things are done at scale. There's services in 5 domains: trust and identity, infrastructure as a service, right, platform, and security as a service. Software as a service, which can run the gamut from student software to research to administrative, any software that's used to operate an institution. Voice video collaboration. And then most recently we've added content services because of the nature of the way content is integrating in with other products, right? Content used to be a book you'd go buy at a bookstore. Of course, that's not content today. And many of our institutions create content. So how do we make that easy to share? So that's really what it is. And those 5 areas, as services are proposed by a campus, they then are brought together through program management and multiple campuses in each of those domains. Many of them don't make it out of service validation. We unfortunately have, there's some zombies along the road which we've had to leave behind where the companies couldn't work with us successfully. The product may not have met the requirements. Maybe it couldn't perform at that scale. So the idea is if you get 10 schools and it can't be proven for those 10 schools, we don't want the other hundreds of schools wasting their time on that exact same version. Let's wait until the product can mature or the company understands our markets better, rather than just all of us spinning our wheels on the same set of problems. So there's examples of some services here, and I'll turn it over to Don here in a minute. We'll talk about the relationship with Merit, because one of the big challenges is, okay, great, we've got all these services. So Eduroam is an identity-oriented service. In this case, it's device identity. Crash Plan is a backup service many of you have heard of. Box is a file collaboration product. Merit is a service built by the community for the community. In the old days, we would write open source software and share the software. What about if we're moving into services? We have the same opportunity here. How do you do it at scale? You make it available through a model like this. Fusebox and BlueJeans are 2 of the 4 video solutions that are in the catalog. So all of these have been proposed or sponsored by an Internet2 member school. We have the 250 research universities in the US. Then we bring those schools together, it goes through this rigorous process, and then it comes out the other end with everything ready to go. The contracts, the business models, the integration already done, the testing, the security, all of those things. So then your campus can, these are all opt-in, you can choose to use them or not, but at least you won't be duplicating the work of all of your peers before you. So one of our challenges is, let's take a Box or Splunk as an example. We get a call from a campus who says, hey, you know, we're currently using that, we've used it in one department, or we'd really like to use it. If they're an Internet2 member, we already have the ability to deliver to those schools. And the providers, the companies, understand that by working with us, it's a national offering from the beginning. But we don't have the relationships or the ability at Internet2 to work with all of CENIC's members. CENIC is huge. And so we worked with CENIC and Merit and others to say, what happens if a K through 12 calls? or a school that has no relationship to Internet2. So this is where the regional program comes in, and where I'm going to turn it over to Don to talk about a unique partnership here where the Merit Network, which is CENIC's peer in Michigan, is actually going to partner with CENIC and Internet2 to make sure anybody in the room's organization within California can get those services. So Don, you want to take it?
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, hi, I'm Don Welch. I'm the President and CEO of Merit Network, and I want to explain to you a little bit about who we are. And so we are Michigan's R&E network. We were formed back in 1966 when we were trying to figure out how to get these mainframes to talk together. And Michigan State, University of Michigan, and Wayne State needed some plausible deniability so no one would catch them collaborating. So they formed us. Maybe too much truth in that joke, but anyway, so and our most recent claim to fame is we got a little over $100 million and built a whole bunch of fiber throughout the state of Michigan. So we're mostly a facilities-based network, which is nice. So I think you'll find us very similar to CENIC. You know, we have a nonprofit mission, which is important to keep our nonprofit status, but more importantly, our purpose. The only reason we exist is for the benefit of our members, and that's our goal. And I think you see that constant across most of the R&E networks, and that's the way we operate. Even though Michigan is a little bit different, it's very decentralized, and so our relationship with most of our members who are not the public universities is a contractual relationship. So we've got the sales and marketing staff and administrative staff in place to handle all those contracts. These are our values. They're very important in understanding who we are and how we operate. And it's something that we emphasize very strongly within Merit. It's the kind of organization that we are. And I think you'll see our members agree that we aspire to achieve all of these values. Our organization, we're a bit bigger than CENIC, but we've got, as you say, we've got under our CFO, we've got our billing and compliance administrative type people. Of course, our largest is our operations with our network and network architecture, our 24/7 support center, our IT team. And we do have a significant sales and marketing team, our outreach team. And then, of course, our research and cybersecurity, which you heard me talk about yesterday. So that's who we are as an organization, and I think you understand that we both have the capability to do this and the desire. We really want to benefit higher education. That's why we're around, not higher education, education overall, the public sectors. So if you want to order any of these services, this is essentially the way we'll do it. You contact us either by phone or through the web, and we will send you an order sheet. And in this order sheet, you'll fill out a bunch of information that includes all your contacts and so forth, and some characteristics about your institution. Depending on the service, a lot of these services are priced based on characteristics of your institution. And then we can do the formal quote and get it back to you. And then you'll send the quote on to Internet2, and Internet2 will put you in contact with the vendor, and you can provision the service and all as well. But the important thing is the first step will come through us, and we've got people who can answer questions. So there'll be a lot of questions along the lines of, well, I only want to use it for one department, so can I get this kind of pricing and so forth? And, you know, or you may need an RFP. Or you may need some bids or something like that. And our staff can help you both, you know, understand as much as possible what the process is, and then can do those kinds of things that you need to have done so that your procurement people can be happy. So support. So your billing will come directly from Internet2. So if you've got a problem there, you can talk to Internet2. You provide first and second level support, and the vendors provide some level of training for that. Third level support is provided by the service provider. Obviously, if you have network issues, then you'll talk to CENIC. We have 24/7 center, and so if all else fails, we will be able to put you in contact with who you need to talk to get your issues resolved with any of these services. So here's an FAQ. So effective today, if you are sitting here right now and you send an email off to sales@Merit, we'll respond. We're set up and ready to do that. We announced yesterday for our members, and it's available for you today. So here's the contact information. You've got your own web page under us. You can get to it from the front or go directly there. And I'll stop and see if you have any questions.
So let me answer a couple things that we didn't want to put tons of text on the FAQ. Is every service available to every school? No. So we have what we call qualified entities. That lists everybody in this room for the most part. That list is provided to the providers, and they have the opportunity to narrow that down. That's because of existing contractual conflicts that may have. Maybe the service they're trialing it with just Internet2 members to start, and then they're going to open it up. Maybe there are different versions of the product or different services that they want for different constituencies. So maybe there's a K through 12 version and then there's a higher ed version. So in each of those cases, it doesn't mean that if it's on the Internet2 website, we are trying to make them all available to everyone, but at this point that is not the case. So you can identify whether they're available to you or not based on the catalog. That Merit has. If you send in a request for a service and it's not available to you, that's fine, because that indicates to us that we need to find a way to make it available to you. Obviously, with a community this diverse, it's hard to know. So, for example, Splunk is a tool that's widely used in the research universities. Maybe the community colleges want to use it too and teach big data analytics and non-structured data. We don't know. So if somebody sends in a request, then we will find a way to start engaging that community to get it added as well. Second thing was Don mentioned the business model issue. One of the things that we are doing with the providers is to eliminate their costs. In order for them to do this and provide us with, in essence, a custom education version, we don't work from their price list down. Because their price list down includes things like, sponsoring football games and, doing all these marketing things. And for the most part, you market to each other. You sell to each other. You share with each other. So we try to work with them to eliminate all those costs. It's carried over the research networks. We do the engineering with them. We do the support. As you saw, we are obligated, you are obligated to provide your first line support in every one of these cases, and in most cases, second line. So you have to have people that are trained on your campuses. That's generally how we work anyway. But as a result of that, we really end up with a single business model. Now, there's variations within that, but it's very different than if you were to buy it commercially. So let's say they offer it today at, $10 a unit commercially. And maybe you can only buy it in packs of 500 through our program. You could still go to the provider and buy it direct at $10 a unit. I want 15 licenses. But you'll be buying the commercial product. You will not be buying the Net Plus Merit CENIC offering. They're different. And so what you can't do is go to the provider and say, I want to buy 12 licenses, but I want it under their contract. Because they're two different things. You can't go to Ford and say, I'd like a Ferrari. You could, but they wouldn't be able to sell it to you. Same thing on this case. You can still go to them, you can still buy it direct, you can do all those things, but it's not the same offering. And so sometimes the model doesn't work for you. Sometimes you'll say, but I'll never need 500. But actually, if you look at it, maybe if you bought 30 of the commercial version, you're better off just buying the 500 pack through this program because it's already done, the contract's there, everything's already in place. So those are the two big questions that have come up previously. Yes?
IPv6. How many of your services are supported on an IPv6 platform, and are you going to start requiring that of your Net Plus services?
So the question is IPv6 support. So it is one of the items in the roadmap checklist that they have to respond to. Both do they support IPv6 today? And if not, what is their plan and committed roadmap to do so? This has been an ongoing discussion, like many other areas, accessibility and other things. The determination was made because we have less than 10% of the providers in the cloud space that are fully IPv6 compliant today, in the market, not for us, just in general, that we have a better opportunity to get them to IPv6 compliance by having them be in the catalog and work with them, and actually work with our IPv6 community that has capabilities in that area to help them move to IPv6 support. Requiring that they are IPv6 compliant before they can participate with us, the vast majority of the providers said that they would not be able to do so in advance of the program because the commercial side today is not requiring it. So as a result, in essence, while we know the value and we want to move them to it, we have found that we are better off working with them to get them to move there over time rather than making it an entry requirement, because otherwise we would have to fund all of the research for all of the R&D for them to do it before we could participate. So it's not ideal, it's not the perfect solution, but it is in fact working for the most part. We are making progress with most of the providers in complying. Other questions? Here and then over here.
So if we're both an Internet2 member and a CENIC member, is there value add that Merit is offering beyond simply going to Internet2 to purchase that you have a different value proposition than purchasing through Internet2 Network Services?
So the question was, if you're both an Internet2 and a CENIC member, is there value in going through Merit? No. So if you go directly to Internet2, you will get a better price than if you go through us. So the partner program is set up. We pay Internet2 the Internet2 member price for the product, and then we mark it up a little. I think it's about 7% to cover our costs. So if you are an Internet2 member, you should go directly to Internet2. The program is really for non-Internet2 members.
And to be clear, the reason for that is the Internet2 members have funded the program. So that's why, that's why we do that. Is we don't, while the Internet2 members want to support everybody using it, the Internet2 members can't really fund all of the education members around the country in using it. But it's fine to support as much deployment as we can. Question over here, and then you say.
K-12 school district, and we're moving more to the cloud because we have faster connectivity. Thank you, CENIC. We're going to Chromebooks and some storeless devices. Is the Merit catalog of software going to serve the K-12 community well, or is it maturing? I know your focus has been on higher ed for a long time.
Yeah, so.
Repeat the question if you would.
Yeah, so the question is for K-12, is the catalog that's going to be offered going to be one that's more focused on K-12 as opposed to higher ed? At NET. So and you said the Merit portfolio. So let me differentiate.
I just read your slide.
Yeah. So Internet2 services are focused primarily on higher ed because that's their members and that's part of NET Plus. Now, Merit and CENIC and others are trying to develop some complementary services that are focused more on K-12 or non-Internet2 type members, but that's not part of this NET Plus program per se. We do work partnerships to make those things available through the Quilt and other organizations. So I think the answer for K-12 is there may be some services in the Internet2 portfolio that are very useful, and you should definitely take advantage of those. I would like to see more, but Internet2's primary focus is their members, the major research institutions.
The model will work. So let's take, I don't know the K through 12 market, but let's say School Pop or School Dude or some K through 12 oriented cloud service. If they want to participate, we have a mechanism to support them in doing so, right? But our members, our Internet2 members, are not likely going to sponsor one of those services. So one of the reasons to set this structure up is ultimately to allow those to roll up so they can then be distributed at a national basis.
So my interest in that would be, is there a K-12 body that can provide that sponsorship and make you fully support the
Yeah, it's going to go through Merit and CENIC right now. So if you send in the request and you say, I'd like to use K-12cloud.org or com or something, then we would have that request in. The regionals would then get together and talk about, is this something that we should be adding to the catalog? And we'd figure out whether we can do so.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, again, the Internet2 schools may or may not be able to benefit from that, and so it wouldn't be high on our focus, but you're going to bring it to us. And the model will work. I mean, we can still do that. Because, again, if you're going to do it in California, it's very likely New York and Florida and Ohio and Wisconsin and Michigan all have the same need.
And we will be your advocate in that case, because Shell loves me and he'll do anything I ask.
Don used to be in the military, so I just do whatever he says to me. Yes, sir, your question.
Yeah, I see, going to the Merit website, seeing services like business continuity service and other things. Why would I go through Merit instead of looking for the same services through CENIC?
Yeah,
Or it's not, will CENIC not be providing those services if they're provided by Merit?
So
If you can repeat the question.
yeah, so you see, you went to the website and you see some services that we offer, and then there are other services that CENIC offers, and you're wondering why you would go through Merit when CENIC offered those. So you would come to us for Internet2 NET services only is the big thing. You may come to us because we offer something that you're interested in that CENIC doesn't. That's outside of this program, but the idea is we're collaborating on the NET services. CENIC didn't feel that they could do a good job providing these services to you, so Lewis and I agreed that we would do that for the NET services. So that's the idea here. If you see something else that you like in ours and CENIC doesn't offer us, we'd be happy to talk to you. We've already got some institutions from California taking some services from us, but that's really not what this program is about. We're not trying to displace anything you're doing with CENIC.
Very specifically, CENIC would have had to add staff and support tools and other things that Merit already had. So rather, again, same kind of model, rather than duplicating it and then creating additional cost, by having Merit pick up that responsibility on behalf of the CENIC community, it should achieve as high a level of support as fast as possible with no additional cost. So I think it's a great partnership, and I'm really, really proud to be working with this team. Now, there are other regions that are going to be participating as well. Ohio is doing this, Florida is doing it, but they're doing it on their own. This is an interesting partnership where Merit and CENIC are working together. So I think we have time for one last question. Yes, sir.
So how do you suggest this gets marketed down to, K-12 institutions? Is there some kind of support there from either Merit or Internet2?
Yeah, so the question is marketing. I'm going to turn it over to my marketing colleague on how he's going to do marketing.
So, we're not the most sophisticated marketing organization, but the marketing materials that describe the services and the values and the way they are, we are going to send to CENIC to pass on to their members. So you will get this information from CENIC, as you normally get your information about anything from CENIC there. And then if you're interested, we can provide more. I think most of the vendors will be doing things like webinars. We will be doing things like webinars that will be available to better understand these services and the value they might bring to your institution.
So again, the email list, sales at Merit, if you are interested in subscribing to a service today. If you're an Internet2 school, you can send it to NET+ at Internet2. And you'll see more of these services, as they keep flowing in. The catalog will keep growing, and CENIC will be providing additional detail on that. So thanks very much, and please send us the emails. If you, again, even if there's nothing in the catalog right now that you want, if there is something you want, we need to get that input and feedback. So please send us those emails, and we'll take it from there. Thanks very much.
Thank you.